Hi, Livonia. Welcome to Livonia On Air. I'm Rob Drzwicki. I'm your Director of Government Affairs and Outreach. And I have a very special guest today because 'tis the season. It's snow removal season, and we've got a lot of streets in this town. So I wanted to bring a friend to us, Tricia Gabriel, who works in our DPW. If you'd like to introduce yourself, what is it you do for the city?
So I'm Tricia Gabriel. I'm the DPW Superintendent, Department of Public Works, and I have been with the city for 8 years. So I just recently got promoted to Superintendent, and I was the Roads and Parks Manager. So I oversaw the Park Maintenance Department as well as the Road Maintenance section. So snow and ice are my expertise, if you will,
There you go.
within the 8 years that I've been here. So I pretty much know lots of things. Snow.
You're the Elsa of Livonia, right? So
Yes,
when we're frozen, you're here to help us out.
Yes, that is always the hope. We always are here to help our residents.
All right, so Tricia, when we start doing snow removal, I'm told a lot of times there's different bodies that are in there that are doing snow removal. I know my teenage sons aren't doing the snow removal in my driveway, but I know that the county comes through and does some roads, and that the city does some roads and some side streets as well. So when I'm thinking of the city, I assume the ones that the county is taking care of are the 6x6 grid, right? So for our listeners at home that aren't viewing this on a video format, just think of that, that 6x6 grid. I'm thinking of Joy Road at the very south, heading up to Plymouth, then Schoolcraft, then 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yes, and with the exception of Schoolcraft, Schoolcraft is maintained by the city of Livonia. So we do maintain Schoolcraft from Inkster to just before Eccles, so just west of Eccles.
So yeah, right where the border lines are. Okay, so that's good to know. So all the big main roads that are east to west are maintained by the county, with the exception of Schoolcraft with that service drive on 96
Yes,
there.
yes.
Okay, that's good to know. So then when I'm going in the other direction, I'm thinking of Haggerty, and then Newburgh, and then Farmington, and then I'm thinking Merriman, Middlebelt, Inkster. Is it the same there?
So it's similar. However, Newburgh is what we maintain, and the county maintains Wayne Road south of Plymouth.
Okay.
So north of Plymouth, it becomes residential, and we do maintain north of Plymouth, but south of Plymouth, that is a county road also.
All right, that's good to know. So a lot of us would think, Wayne Road isn't nearly the thoroughfare that, say, a Newburgh is through the city,
Exactly.
but we actually do maintain Newburgh Road.
Yes, we do, yes.
All right. All right, so the county roads are covered at that point. Are we going out at the same time that these county plows are going out?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We don't necessarily follow county rules for when we start salting and or plowing. We have a group of supervisors and our manager that will go out and they'll inspect the routes. They'll drive multiple routes. 1 and 2 are considered Schoolcraft, coast to coast, and then we have 3 and 4, which is Ann Arbor Trail, which we do maintain that as well, and Newburgh. So 3 and 4 would be Ann Arbor Trail and Newburgh, and we go out and test actually all of our 8 primary routes. Those are completed 24/7. So when there's a need for salt or plowing, those are handled first. So we will go out and kind of do brake tests, make sure obviously no one's around, be safe about it, but we want to make sure if there's any sliding, any concerns. We also get calls from LPD, so Livonia Police Department will give us a call to our on-call foreman, and we'll have people go out and check the roads too. So it's not dependent on what Wayne County is doing. Sometimes they'll have a call out and we'll get that information saying, oh, Wayne County is going to be salting or plowing, but we assess our roads ourselves. We don't rely specifically on county to do that.
That's good, and it's the more local, the better. These are our local roads that we really need, so we want to make sure we're maintaining what we can when we can. So now I've got the kind of full grid in my head. This is great. It seems like every one of our main roads is covered.
Yes.
I live off of Levan. That's not a main road. So when does Levan get plowed?
So I guess the question is, are you north or south of 5 Mile?
I am north of 5 Mile. On Levan.
So that's a great question. That is also we call that a primary route as well, because St. Mary's is right there. So that is also a main thoroughway for the most part from Plymouth Road. There are some south of Plymouth residents on Levan there, but from Plymouth all the way up until it is 7 Mile. Yes, is it 7 Mile? because it jogs over. So I'm
Yep.
trying to think. So it jogs over. So we go from Plymouth to 7 Mile for Levan, then we jog over to Gill, and we handle Gill from 7 to 8.
Okay, so, and is that done? So you've
That's a
got,
primary
I'm
route.
thinking of a lot of these roads, so Hubbard, for instance, Gill Road, Levan. So roads like that aren't quite thoroughfares, maybe West Chicago is a good example as well, Curtis. A lot of these roads aren't main roads, but man, do we use them a lot. Our residents
Yes.
use them a ton, and you know, there's a lot of school buses going down these streets when I see them. There are schools on almost all of these
Correct.
streets. So where are they in the priority list of when we start plowing and
So-
salting those?
Again, those half-mile roads are typically done by us for the most part. I'm looking at my route book here. West Chicago is considered number 7. So we have primary routes. Our primary routes consist of 8 routes. So 1 and 2, as I had mentioned, were Schoolcraft. 3 and 4, well, 3 is partially Ann Arbor Trail, and 3 and 4 is Newburgh. So Ann Arbor Trail and Newburgh, 3 and 4. And then 5 is Levan and Gill. 6, I believe, is Linden. So Linden Road. 7 would be West Chicago, and 8 is our industrials.
Okay.
So those are all of our primary routes. Again, those are 24/7. We do have secondary routes as well, which are our weekday routes.
Okay, and are these are all 24/7? So you said you've got supervisors out there kind of brake checking on these
Yes.
streets and seeing when they're safe. So regardless of if it's just a light dusting or if it's, you know, sometimes you get that wet snow with some ice under it, then snow over it makes it
Yes.
incredibly slippery. So you guys are out there checking all those 24/7 to make sure that those are going to be drivable when they can be. How about our side streets? You know, the street I live on is just a regular old residential street. Nice little green sign shows me where to go. In the middle of a neighborhood. Do we ever get to those routes throughout the weeks?
So throughout the weeks, again, it's more half-mile roads. They are weekday routes, and they are placed in a way that every resident is within a quarter mile of a salted plowed route. So we do not hit every single local road throughout the city. There's 360 miles of roads through the city, but we have created the salt route, the secondary, specifically so that outside of the major thoroughways that we're able to narrow down that distance that residents have to drive from their home to get to a salted plowed road, whether that's county, that's a primary or a secondary route. So we try to make it so that it's within a quarter mile of everyone's home so that we're not also salting, there comes a cost associated with that, but
Sure.
so that we're salting every single local road every single time, which would have a significant increase in cost all around.
I'm sure, and it's wear and tear on those roads as well.
Yes, yes.
It's, it's for long-term use of those roads, salting isn't the greatest thing we can be doing,
Right.
but sometimes it's the only way to make it safe to drive on it.
Exactly.
So when will I know if I'm sitting at home and I see, I've got my hot cocoa and I see that it's snowing outside? When am I going to know that my DPW is out there getting the job done? Is it generally going to be after a certain number of inches, or is it really always based on that brake check out on the roads?
So that's a great question. So this is now when we start going into our snow emergency declaration. So snow emergencies are typically the only time, with some extenuating circumstances, that we do plow citywide, and that's every single Livonia maintained street citywide. So that is when there's a threshold of over 4 inches. So it doesn't necessarily mean at 4, could be at 4, just depending on what's coming, what
Sure.
we have. Is there ice underneath? Are we gonna be polishing these up? The temperatures are gonna be dropping significantly, like this, upcoming week.
Yeah.
We take all of those into consideration. The Director of Public Works, I go to him with a proposal. We go out and drive around. We figure out what our best option is, and then we reach out to Mayor and pull her on board and see, hey, are we going to be declaring a snow emergency?
She rings a bell or blows a conch shell or something like that, and then everybody, the bat signal goes up in the air, and everybody gets to
Here
work.
we go.
I know that I've always been able to rely on my city streets being plowed in this town, and I live fairly close to a mile road, and always have throughout most of my life. So it is good to know that everybody in the city, not just folks who live kind of close to those big county roads, everybody is relatively close to a road that is salted, that is plowed. Because if you got to get somewhere in an emergency, to know that you only have to get out of your neighborhood to be able to get onto good, safe roads is a good thing to know. And now I know, okay, that 4-inch mark is a good start to where you guys are deciding whether it's a snow emergency or not. That's usually when I'm deciding to tell my sons to go out and start shoveling the driveway because I'm enjoying my hot cocoa inside. And I'll pay for that in the future anyway. If there's a snow emergency, how is it that we're going to find out about that? What's the best way to find out?
So the best way to find out is through Code Red. That is the best way how we alert the entire city as to what our next steps are moving forward. I typically call the OIC at the police department to say, hey, we're going to be declaring a snow emergency. Then they push out a Code Red alert to let everybody know that we need the roads cleared, and we try to give you as much notice as possible. The ordinance states 6 hours, but we try to do it sooner.
Okay.
But we unfortunately be a little less than 6, and it just depends on the situation. It depends on the snow. It depends on at the rate that it's falling and the damage that it's taking to the roads as far as icing over. Are we getting freezing? Are we getting freezing rain, snow, sleet? There's
a lot of stuff that
so
can
many
fall
variables.
from the sky.
Yes, so many variables.
But when it does start falling from the sky,
Yes.
Checking in with Code Red is always a great idea. You can find a link to sign up for Code Red on the Livonia.gov website. You can even just search it in Google, Livonia Code Red, and that'll get you to where you can sign up for it. And those alerts come through email and through text message as well. But make sure you sign up for that because that doesn't just hit our winter emergencies. That's in case of any weather emergencies or any major emergencies going on in the city. It's a great way to find out. And I can also say we'll probably have Facebook updates,
Yes, yep.
and we'll have updates, on our website and all that. So always, when you think an emergency might be happening, just stay tuned. Our Livonia Cable TV will cover it. And all of our other emergency broadcast signals will get that out as well. So one thing, just to lighten it up a little bit, one thing that I know is that when I'm done shoveling my driveway, because it's usually me, it's not my teenage sons. Teenagers don't shovel driveways. When those city plows do come through, sometimes I'll get that big mountain of ice that floods up at the bottom of my driveway. Is there anything I can do to stop that, to fix that?
So the snow has to go somewhere. I'm going to preface with that. The snow does have to go somewhere. However, if you are looking at your house from the road, make sure that you're shoveling back on that right side. So because the truck is ultimately going to be pushing the snow going down on the right side. So that will alleviate some of the snow buildup at the end of the driveway. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but if you do shovel to the right a little further down, maybe at property points, then it should help alleviate some of that buildup at the end of your driveway.
Because some of that snow will be able to release off before my driveway hits.
Yes.
And then I think the best thing to do, the times that it hasn't been much of a hassle to me is when I hear the plow go by, I go out and I start going at it with my shovel before it freezes and hardens into a nice solid rock.
Just be careful when there are snow plows in the way. Those are very large vehicles loaded with salt. They're heavy and they cannot stop fast. So please steer clear of that because we want to keep everyone safe while plowing the roads appropriately.
Speaking of these unstoppable harbingers of our demise, now they're out there making sure that we're able to get in and out of our homes safely. But speaking of them being big and heavy and not stopping on a dime, people park on our residential streets all the time. So will we be informed if we need to get our cars off of the streets, and how will that information come out to us?
And that information is also dispatched, like we had discussed, like Code Red. It is basically social media outlets, news outlets too, our website, things like that. A snow emergency has been declared. Please remove your car off the vehicle within the next 6 hours or whatever time frame it is, so that we can begin plowing city roads.
Sure, and I can remember many times in my life, shoveling myself a space in the driveway so I could pull into that just to be able to get off of the roads. Because that's not only for the safety of your car. You don't want to get it scratched, dented, or just run right through, plowed through, as it were.
Right.
It's also for the safety of our drivers and the other folks on the roadway.
Yes.
And making sure that we don't have a bunch of other debris and things like that on the side of that road, because that'll go somewhere.
Yes.
So if you have an old bundle of sticks that's sitting there, it'll get hit by that plow and go flying wherever it needs to.
Sticks, leaves, you name it, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you found all sorts of things over the years.
Yes.
Under big piles of snow that you didn't realize were there.
Nope, no, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we've got, you said, about 120 miles of streets that we plow and we salt.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and then we've got the side streets that will often eventually get done, but they're not our priority. We need to make
Correct.
sure those emergency routes are ready. If we declared a snow emergency right now at this moment, which we're not quite at the point there, it's been snowing all day, but pretty light. It's not sticking too hard. How long would it take us to plow, our whole city here and do what we need to do?
There's so many variables in that. So again, we will make sure that those primary and secondary routes are completely done before our city employees enter in the local roads, because those are what is most important, right? We want to make sure that people can get out of their neighborhood and get to where they need to go, especially in emergency situations. So number one, those two sets of routes will be completed first. That could take, depending on the amount of snow, right? It could take anywhere from 8 to 18 hours, maybe even more, because we plow it off, we salt it, then we get another snow squall. I forgot what I was saying. So
Sure.
Snow squall. So then again, then we have to make sure we're doing curb passes, opening up those catch basins. So we want to leave those routes as best as we can under the given weather conditions. Wet pavement. Like, we want you to get out there and be able to get to where you need to go. Like, that is what our
Sure.
primary goal is. So in the meantime, while the snow's still accumulating, because more than likely that's the situation, so we got to keep running those routes over and over again until they are good enough for wet pavement, and or not necessarily wet pavement, but just so travel, right? So if everybody's safely traveling on those 40 mile per hour roads. So after that, we have contractors that come in. So we have two sets of contractors that come in, and we direct them to areas out in the local roads. So now, while we're maintaining our routes, they're working on those local roads, those neighborhood roads, so that we can start clearing those out so people can get out of their driveway, drive down those down their roads. So we start with the contractors first, and then as we peel off of those routes, we start putting trucks in local road neighborhood areas so that we can continue to work our snow emergency processes. So
That's great. I always used to like it when there was a nice compact layer of snow on the ground, because it would fill in all the potholes. But we've done a great job on our roads over these last few years that there's not as many of them. It's you don't notice it as much
Yes.
when there's when that snow melts off. So it's good to know that. So a lot of this is trust the process. All of this is
Right.
planned out,
Yes.
and you've got boots on the ground or tires on the ground at all times,
Yes.
making sure that we know what's safe to drive
Yes.
on and what's not.
Exactly.
All the while, the county is going to come through at their timing and make sure that a lot of these roads, some of the biggest roads that we all drive on every day for the most part, like we said, Joy and Plymouth, and we skip over Schoolcraft because we're taking care of that, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8 mile, and then obviously you've got Haggerty. And you've got, it's most of Wayne Road, Newburgh we're covering, and then Farmington, Merriman, Middle Belt, and Inkster.
Yes.
And those are getting done by the county while we're worker bees on all of our main thoroughfares that are really
Yes.
just Livonia thoroughfares.
yes, yep.
So if I think that there's an area that should have been plowed and has not been plowed, or if I see if I get a broken mailbox, or if something happens when a plow goes through my neighborhood, what's the best way to contact the city on that?
So that is DPW. Give us a call at the DPW number, and then we will make sure we put in a service request, and someone will go out there and take a look at it, identify the situation. Mailboxes are knocked down. It's a city-maintained road. We will put a temporary there. Obviously, ground is frozen, so we'll put a temporary there, and then we will let them know their options for replacement.
Perfect. That's great.
Yes.
No, I appreciate you coming out. This is really important information, especially this time of year when it looks like we're going to see some snow. We may see a Lions Super Bowl. we'll definitely see snow.
That's usually
Right.
how it works out, right?
Some things are always true. Some things, aren't necessarily, or some are just happy surprises.
Yes.
Most importantly, Livonia, make sure that you're staying warm and you're staying safe in your homes. If it seems like it's not a good time to drive, stay home and have a hot cocoa. And obviously, if there's an emergency, you need help getting out of there, your friends at the DPW and at City Hall are always there to help out. But like we said, those emergency routes are going to be, within a quarter mile. They're always going to be, a good road for you to get on to get to whatever you need to get to, which is great to know. So until next time, Livonia, have a wonderful day and stay warm out there.